Hi everyone, good morning, good morning. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and I'm coming live to you today on Tuesday, September 30 for this week's Technique Tuesday, and I am super excited to be sharing this week's technique with you. It's something that I have not taught before, and it is a new tool to me as well. We are going to be creating our own background designer series paper using the Stampin' Brayer. So I am keen as a bean to show you, and in fact the timing of this is perfect because just last week Stampin' Up posted a back to basics video where they showed the Stampin' Brayer on their Instagram and their Facebook. So I'm going to be sharing that video in our Facebook group after I post this as well. So I hope everyone is having a happy Tuesday today. Nicole is here, Melinda's here. Hi Mel, hi Nick. Thanks so much for joining me today. So this week's Technique Tuesday, my photos are from the World Trade Center in New York City, and perfect timing, Mel, that you've just jumped on, because I want to give a shout out to Mel. A couple of weeks ago, I had my monthly workshops for September. And for those of you that are new here, every month I feature a scrapbooking workshop kit and its coordinating suite of products, and it's coordinating scrapbooking from scratch products as well. And for the month of September, I've been working with the Peaceful Days scrapbooking workshop kit, and its coordinating products are called Peaceful Garden. And Mel was at scrapbooking a couple of weeks ago, and she was doing the Peaceful Days scrapbooking workshop kit. If you've not seen those layouts, be sure to jump on my YouTube, Scrapbooking with Sarah Shipton, and you can go back to my week 1 video in September, and I actually share the 3 layouts from that scrapbooking workshop kit. Now, I was so inspired by Mel because she actually switched out her papers for the scrapbooking workshop kit, and she used the papers featuring this beautiful Peace Doves designer series paper. And Mel actually has also been to the World Trade Center, the memorial site there, and she used those photos to scrapbook with these papers as a symbol of peace with the doves. And I just thought that was such a touching tribute, and I was so inspired by those colors that I went and printed my World Trade Center, the Memorial Museum photos as well. So obviously, as you can see, the colors in the photos look absolutely perfect with this particular designer series paper. This was my first time to the memorial, and we toured through the museum first of all. So these pictures here are pictures of the original buildings of the World Trade Center. And then we took a self-guided tour through the museum and the memorial, and you've got this beautiful quote here: "No day shall erase you from the memory of time," and the beautiful blues. Obviously it was a gorgeous spring day in New York City, so the sky was blue. I've added a couple of flip-flaps here just to get some extra photos on, so some photos of inside the museum, and then outside where the memorial is, with the beautiful peaceful fountains. So such a great alternative to scrapbooking, potentially a white Christmas, or this particular suite. If you look at the stamp set, in fact I've got my mini catalogue here. So this was the scrapbooking workshop kit that I've already featured, and then there is the suite collection here where you can buy individual components. All of this artwork is card orientated, and you can see the sentiments: heartfelt prayers with deepest sympathy, peace on earth. So it's very much that style of suite. There are also some coordinating scrapbooking from scratch products as well, which is what I've used today. I've used the designer series paper and the coordinating cardstock. I didn't invest in a second pack of DSP with the sticker sheet because I actually got this sticker sheet in the scrapbooking workshop kit, and there were some leftover stickers that I was able to use on an alternate layout. So I do feature them on my YouTube channel. So really simple layout today in terms of embellishing. And that's one of the things that I love about the current patterns that I am sharing with you ladies at the moment. We are working with pattern 2F, which is on page 31 of the Reflections scrapbook program. And this particular scrapbooking program book is very much about getting back to basics. So at the moment we're doing a technique which is called bottom border, and this one is footnotes. So you've got this gorgeous border that runs across the bottom of your 12 by 12 inch scrapbook page, and then you're creating a journaling box here to tell your story. So your photos and your stories are definitely the two most important things that go on your page. And as you can see here, I've kept the embellishing really simple for a number of reasons. I've opted to add more photos. The designer series paper kind of really stands out beautifully on its own. I've got this Brayer technique, which I've done on the background. And I kind of just wanted a really classic, simple layout in tribute to these particular photos as well. So let's talk about the products that you're going to work with. You're going to need 2 sheets of coordinating cardstock or designer series paper as your base, 12 by 12 for your scrapbook page. I have used basic beige cardstock, so this is the original colour. Now, it is two-tone, so this is the lighter side of the basic beige. This is the original side of basic beige, but you wouldn't tell because I've actually done the Stampin' Brayer technique over the top of my cardstock, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating to you today. You're also going to need another sheet of either designer series paper or cardstock, and you're going to cut a strip at 4 inches, which is going to run along the bottom of your scrapbook layout, and it's going to be 1 inch up from the bottom of your page. So 4-inch strips running through here, 1 inch up. Then you're going to need another sheet of either designer series paper or coordinating cardstock, and you're going to cut this strip through the middle at 2 inches, and you're putting that strip smack bang in the middle of the 4-inch strip. So that coordinates beautifully there. Now, in terms of creating your footnotes box here, I have used cardstock to create this journal box, and then I've put white willow over the top. So I've gone with cloud cover cardstock. That is one of the coordinating colours in the Peaceful Day suite. I've taken that from the two-tone cardstock. With the cloud cover, I've gone with the lighter side of the cloud cover because that's just worked really well for my photos. So I did need 2 sheets of cloud cover cardstock to cut all of these photo mats down. And then for your footnotes box here, you're going to cut this at 2.5 by 8 inches. And then if you want to cut another piece of cardstock to fit inside that box for you to do your journaling on, you're going to cut that at 2.25 inches by 7.75 inches. And then you're going to get a perfect journal box fit inside the cardstock base. Okay, so the instructions for that are actually not here in the paper dimensions, so be sure to write those instructions down, because this white willow piece I've cut at 2.25 inches by 7.75 inches, and that's been a perfect fit inside piece C, which was cut at 2.5 by 8 inch. Okay, now in terms of your photos, you can see here on the pattern we've got one 5 by 7 inch photo. If you are going to do a 5 by 7 inch photo, the paper dimensions that have been cut for this mat are 6 by 8 inch. I have opted for a number of photos on my layout, so I've got some 4 by 6 inch photos here in landscape, and then I've got some portrait ones here, and I've added flip-flaps onto here, so that's enabled me to get 2 more photos on top of the original one that I've stuck on the base page. These 2 photos I've cut at 4 by 4, so my mats for these are 4.25 by 4.25. For my 4 by 6 inch photos, my mats for those are 4.25 by 6.25. And then I've got a smaller 3 by 4 inch landscape photo here, which I've cut down. And then my mat for this one is 3.25 by 4.25. Okay, and then I've just had a play with laying them out where I've wanted them. And then I'm going to take these actually out now of the memory protectors. so you can see them a little bit clearer. And then I'm actually using my Party Alphabet dies with the Secret C cardstock. This is the lighter tone. I've cut the letters NYC out for New York City, and then I've actually run my letters. Give me a thumbs up. You should be able to see that. I've run my letters through my Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. I've just run them through. I've actually stuck the letters along the outer edge of the embossing folder, and so it's just embossed the bottom of the letters, and you're not actually seeing this inside flat piece where you would stamp a sentiment or cut that out for journal boxes, which I've been demonstrating during this month. So that's my title for the NYC, and then I've just done some very basic embellishing with the Hues of Blues flowers. So this coordinates with the suite. I've just put a couple of those there. I've done my journaling with my journaling pen. I like to rule lines inside my journal box, so I've ruled these at 1/4 of an inch width with my ruler, and then my journaling with the 0.4 black Stampin' Up! Journaling pen. I've put the date on there as well, and I've got a couple of other Hues of Blues flowers. So a very basic layout in terms of embellishing, and sometimes your photos just call for that type of layout. So who is excited to see this Stampin' Brayer technique? You can see with the base here, the whole purpose with this particular technique is it's not meant to look perfect. It's meant to look rustic. It's meant to look uneven. It's meant to look, you know, give it that kind of like distressed inky look. And so you will note that in some spaces, my ink is darker just because of the pressure that I've applied. And I think I have stuck this on. Yes, I actually painted with the Stampin' Brayer up and down, and I've just realized that I wanted my paper to go this way. But oh well, I've stuck it down now anyway. It is what it is. Only because I found it easier to do the Stampin' Brayer up and down vertically as opposed to left to right. But I wanted my layout to be left to right, so then it actually just flows nicer given my papers are running left to right across the bottom border there. So let's get into it. I'm so excited to share this technique with you. Now, before you start, you are going to make sure that you are going to have some of the Stampin' Up! Paper Grid paper on your workspace, because you are going to be getting a little bit inky with this particular particular technique. You are going to need your cardstock. So I've used a basic beige, and I did use the original side of basic beige. Now, for this technique, you can just use plain cardstock. I've also seen this Stampin' Brayer technique done on the beautiful gallery papers, and in fact, I first saw this Stampin' Brayer technique at On Stage, which is the Stampin' Up! Demonstrators convention earlier this year in Brisbane. And I want to give a shout out to one of my Stampin' Up! Friends, Paula Simmons. She's in New Zealand. She did a demonstration on the Stampin' Brayer and her artwork she posted. So I am going to share her artwork in our Facebook group and give credit to her, so you can see how she's used the Stampin' Brayer on the beautiful gallery designer series paper, which is in your core annual catalogue. Okay, now that is paper that's got a pattern over the top of it, and then she's used the Stampin' Brayer to actually put the ink over the top. So you really can create any designer series paper color that you want, or distress look that you want, whether it's on plain cardstock or whether it is on designer series paper. You are going to need your Stampin' Brayer. So this is like a little kind of mini paint roller. So in terms of your measurements, she measures at 5.5 inches wide. The really cool thing with the Stampin' Brayer is you've got these legs here on either side. So when I sit that down on my work table, it actually is sitting up, and it means that I'm not going to get any ink on my paper or my layout. So you don't want to sit it flat down like so, because you can see that now that is on the workspace. You want to sit it with your little legs facing downwards. Okay, You are also going to need your stamp chamois, okay? So I've already pre-wet this, and this will go hard and dry out, but you can just add water, scrunch it up, and it's going to be wet again. I will post links to all the products that I'm sharing with you today. I've just got this sitting in one of my previous organisers that I had invested in from my time during Close to My Heart. Now, for the ink colours I've used today to create this Stampin' Brayer look over the top of my cardstock, I've done Secret C over the basic beige. So this was one of the coordinating ink pads from the suite. And then I've actually used the white pigment ink over the top of that. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate that to you today because the Secret C is a very heavy ink. It's obviously dark, okay, and you might even want to, if you're using a darker ink pad, you might even want to roll off the edges on another sheet of paper before you do it on your cardstock, okay? So another really good tip as well is that when you go to ink your ink pad, you want your Stampin' Brayer facing upwards with the legs towards you, because if I'm going like this, it's not going to roll. We're going to turn it over to do the actual rolling technique, okay? So what I'm going to do here, hopefully you can see that all nicely in the camera. I'm going to start at the bottom and then we'll work our way up. So I've got my ink pad here running vertically, and all we're going to do is we are just going to roll the Stampin' Brayer inside the ink pad. It doesn't matter if you don't get it even. It doesn't matter if you've got more ink on one side than the other, because that's the whole purpose of this particular technique, okay? And then I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to create this rolled pattern, and I'm getting all of my ink off my brayer there, okay? So you can see I've got most of that off, so I'm going to ink that up again. Okay, so I've got it feet upwards, and then that way it's not going to scratch my paper. And then we're just going to roll that brayer over your cardstock. So as I was saying before, it doesn't matter if you're going over other lines, if one looks darker than the other, because this is the whole point of this particular technique, okay? So I'm rolling it vertically. However, I did want to actually stick it horizontally. But I forgot to do that. I don't know why I forgot to do that. I'm actually working remotely from our new caravan this week. We have taken it for a test run, but I'm not set up in the caravan yet to be able to do my videos. I didn't have time to get that organised. So I've actually left the caravan park this morning to come and do my Technique Tuesday here with you all at home. Okay, so that is the Secret C on my basic beige. First of all, I'm going to pop this ink pad to the side, and I'm going to bring in my stamp chamois, okay, which is just, it's just damp, okay, and it's not sopping wet. All I'm doing is just rolling over my stamp chamois, and I'm getting any of that excess ink off, okay. Now I'm going to put my Stampin' Brayer down, but I'm going to turn it over so these feet are sitting on my workbench here, okay. So I've got the cardstock done with the first layer. I went over it with the white. So this is the white pigment ink Stampin' Pad. You actually get this Stampin' Pad empty, so there's no ink in it, but it also comes with this little pigment ink refill. And so you need to open your ink pad up. I've already used, obviously, ink on mine, but when you use it for the first time, you need to ink it up, okay? So what we're going to do is I've got my pigment ink here, and this is fun. We're just going to get that running here. I'm just going to get, I should have actually had this sitting upwards, upside down. Here we go, here it comes. I'm just going to pop some pigment ink over my stamp pad, trying to keep it on the actual foam base and not go over the edges. Okay, so I'm just popping some ink on there, and I'll pop my lid on that so it doesn't dry out, pop it to the side. And now I've got my Stampin' Brayer. I'm going to turn her upside down so the feet are facing upwards to me. And I'm just going to roll that over. It's kind of like painting. If you're into painting, I've got some friends that are painting their house at the moment, then this will be super easy for you. So all I'm doing here is just distributing that ink out. Okay, I'm going to pop that to the side. And then what I did here is I went over the blue because I was kind of going for like that. I wanted sort of like this white splodgy ink look over the blue, and it didn't quite work out the way that I wanted it to, but it still looks fabulous. Now, because it is a pigment ink, you might find that you need to re-ink again. So I'm just going over some of the spaces where it's a little dark, just to soften that colour. You could definitely have kept it just with one colour. You don't have to go over it with the white. I just really liked that look. I'm going to pop a little bit over here as well. So I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to pop some here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And you can see putting that white pigment ink over the top just helps to soften that. And what I've kind of ended up with, I'll pop this, oh no, let's get my stamp chamois first and clean that up. What I've ended up with is just a really softer version of the Secret C. And you can see that I have basically put the Secret C ink on there, and then I've just done the white pigment ink straight over the top afterwards. Okay, so you don't need to worry about giving it time to dry. It's a water-based dye ink. The coloured inks are, not this one. This is a pigment ink. You don't need to give it time to dry. It pretty much is dry straight away, okay? However, the pigment ink, you want to put this now, if you're going to put the pigment ink over the top, you even could put this white pigment ink straight over some designer series paper that's got the pattern on there. And they're the artwork images that I'm going to share in our Facebook group a little later today, okay? Because I want you to be inspired by that. And I probably now will do a lot more with this, that I've invested in this bad boy. So because I put the pigment ink over the top there, you will just want to set that aside and give it a little bit of time to dry. And that is my before, and this is my after. So I will be sure to post some links to all of the artwork, all of the products that I have shared with you lovely ladies today. And I hope that that fun Stampin' Brayer technique has inspired you to try something a little bit different in your scrapbooking. You can create any color base cardstock that you want to. Sometimes you just need that little bit of a lighter version of what you're working with, or you want to put it over some designer series paper. I hope that's inspired you to try something new today in your scrapbooking. And you can see I've ended up with this beautiful kind of almost very metallic grey look, which I think ties in beautifully with the buildings and my photos that I've got here today to share with you. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see what you ladies come up with this week. I will be checking in from my van on my phone to see your beautiful layouts. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.